Merci d'être là. Ça fait plaisir de vous voir tout le monde. Vous avez vu ce matin que j'ai introduit un projet de loi, un nouveau projet de loi en matière d'habitation. Ce qu'on avait vu, c'était une baisse des ventes de nouvelles unités d'habitation au pays. On a décidé d'agir pour renforcer l'offre d'habitation à travers les grandes villes au pays, pour travailler avec les provinces, les territoires, mais surtout aussi renforcer l'industrie de la construction. Moi, je pense surtout aux travailleurs de la construction qu'on va avoir besoin pour bâtir le pays auquel on rêve et l'ensemble des projets qu'on a d'infrastructure. On veut s'assurer que tous ceux qui travaillent dans le domaine de la construction puissent continuer d'œuvrer maintenant, mais aussi dans le moyen et le long terme avec nous. Et aussi, je voudrais dire qu'on s'attend aujourd'hui à recevoir la sanction royale sur la loi de mise en œuvre du budget. Je veux remercier le Sénat. Le Sénat a travaillé fort là-dessus. Donc, il va y avoir d'autres mesures, évidemment, dans la loi de mise en œuvre du budget. Mais ce matin, c'est un geste concret, un geste du gouvernement fédéral qui veut faire travailler avec les provinces et les territoires. C'est le fédéralisme constructif. Hein? On dit on va travailler avec vous, puis le ministre Gregor Robertson, évidemment, a fait déjà beaucoup en matière d'habitation, mais on veut donner un coup de pouce. Je pense que c'est ça. On donne un coup de pouce à l'industrie de la construction, un coup de pouce aux travailleuses de la construction. So I'm here with Minister Robertson, which everyone knows. We just tabled legislation this morning, and we had seen a dip across the nation in major cities when it comes to new home sales. And we decided to act with our provincial and territorial colleagues to boost the construction and certainly also give a boost to the construction workers because we will need them to build the country that we aspire to. And since we had seen that dip, we want to make sure that we boost the offering of new homes in the country, but at the same time that we boost the construction industry, that we keep, obviously, all the tradespeople that are going to build the infrastructure of today, but also the infrastructure of tomorrow. As you know, Minister Robertson has a very ambitious plan with the Prime Minister and our government and our colleagues. I would say the colleagues behind me are all witnessing the same thing, and we say we need to act, and we need to act now and decisively. So that's what we're proposing in this bill. And also, good news, it's Thursday, so you expect good news. We expect the Senate has been working hard, and we expect to receive royal assent on the Budget Implementation Act, which is going to give more tools in the toolbox in order to boost the housing sector in Canada. So I'll leave the word to Minister Robertson, but I just want to thank our provincial colleagues, territorial colleagues. I think everyone in the country understands housing is something that we can all contribute, and today the federal government is very happy to be doing its part with my colleagues and obviously Minister Robertson. Minister?
Merci. Merci, le ministre. Honored to be here today. Today is another good day for housing across Canada. We have another tool in our toolbox to advance the housing market where it has slowed. And complement the work that we're doing on affordable housing with Build Canada Homes. We have a $13 billion affordable housing agency that is ramping up. Now over 10,000 homes in the works through Build Canada Homes, as well as Building Community Strong Fund, a $51 billion infrastructure fund that's doing housing enabling infrastructure to also assist our housing market. I want to thank my colleagues here for their support going in. We need to keep working with our provinces and territories, our cities, Indigenous communities. The private sector is critical in delivering the housing that we need, as well as community builders. All of us working together right now is essential for delivering the affordable and attainable housing that Canadians need. Merci. Et nous allons travailler avec nos partenaires à travers le pays pour bâtir un logement abordable. Merci.
Thank you. We're happy to, yeah, very good, sir. Thanks, We're happy to take, obviously, your questions.
Minister, how are you determining what this $1.7 billion fund, how much each province is getting? Is it piecemeal, or are there standards set up for how this is going to be doled out?
There's a formula that takes into account different things. We've been looking at the new home sales in different key markets in the country. It's mainly in major cities across the countries that we have seen that. We have seen also an affordability aspect to that because, in some cities we have seen that some rent prices are going down, some housing prices are going down, but still looking at the affordability in key major markets. But like Minister Robertson said, this is another tool in the toolbox. Different provinces, and we've been flexible, and I want to commend Minister Robertson and my colleagues. Caucus was very clear to us with the Prime Minister to support provinces and territories, but to be also flexible because, you don't have one size fits all. The challenge you're facing, for example, in Toronto is acute and is dealing with a situation that you're facing there. But we wanted also to make sure that every parts of the country could use their own solutions and tools in their toolbox to increase the supply of new homes across the country. So, like I said, it's going to be different in different parts of the country. And with respect to this particular program, we're going to rely on our provincial and territorial partners to use that money in the most efficient way to increase the supply.
So will all provinces get funding, or will it be applications?
No, it's not like you said. You're quite right. There's different ways where you can transfer money. Minister Robertson can add. Sometimes it's based on population. Sometimes it's application-based. This is really a formula that takes into account new home sales and what we had seen as the decrease to make sure that we keep the construction of new homes to a certain level in different markets across the country. And as I would say, we've seen that more acute in major urban areas in the country.
We know that Ontario is planning on removing taxes from new builds. What would you say to somebody in, say, Vancouver who might have to pay taxes on new build if their government decides not to proceed with removing the taxes?
Well, I'll give the word to Minister Robertson if there's someone who knows something about Vancouver and BC. But I would just say that the beauty of what we have introduced today is that it's flexible. It's not one size fits all. Ontario has decided to do it their own way. Good for them. Good for the people of Ontario. Good for the construction sector. BC, I have to talk to my colleague in BC, the Minister of Finance, but we have, thanks to Minister Robertson and his leadership, we have kept flexibility. So they may use that money to support existing programs. They may design a new program to support the supply of new homes in their jurisdiction. So that's the beauty of it, because oftentimes, you come with a federal program and the reality of housing in the country is very different, whether you go East Coast, West Coast, and major urban center. The beauty of what we've announced today is that it's going to take into account the different markets and trusting. This is the way the federal government, a constructive federalism is also to trust our provincial partners to know how they can apply that money more effectively to boost that and keep our construction worker active during this critical time.
I'll jump in as well on that, just to illustrate. Build Canada Homes has an agreement with the province of Quebec that is very collaborative. We are going to build together, but there is collaboration table that identifies the projects that we will be funding together. So we're taking this approach by province and territory. This is another tool giving these provinces and territories flexibility and how they tackle and improve their housing markets. And this, again, is another piece of the puzzle to help raise the housing supply across the country.
J'avais été convoqué au comité des comptes publics en lien avec l'histoire du million que le fisc demande à Laval, en lien avec l'ancien maire Gilles Vaillancourt. Comment vous justifiez aux Lavallois qui nous regardent à la maison en ce moment qui doivent essuyer cette facture-là?
D'abord, votre question présuppose beaucoup de choses. Moi, je vous dirais ce que j'ai dit. Et je suis content d'aller au comité. Vous savez, j'aime toujours ça, aller au comité. Ça va me faire plaisir de leur parler. Ce que j'ai dit aux gens de Laval, puis j'espère qu'ils sont avec moi aujourd'hui, on va être ensemble on a plusieurs annonces dans les prochains jours, c'est de leur dire que je travaillais à trouver une solution dans l'intérêt des gens de Laval. Les gens de Laval font la part des choses. Ils comprennent que comme ministre du Revenu national, je ne peux pas commenter de façon très ouverte les dossiers des payeurs ou des contribuables. C'est une situation qui a été très médiatisée. Mais ce que je peux vous dire aujourd'hui, c'est que les procureurs au dossier il y en a plusieurs, travaillent ensemble pour trouver une solution dans l'intérêt des gens de Laval. Et lorsque j'aurai plus à annoncer, bien évidemment, on le fera en temps et lieu, mais je peux vous dire qu'on travaille activement là-dessus.
On the budget bill, you mentioned the Senate's probably going to pass it today, but they aren't happy about the size of the budget bills. They put out a report this week calling omnibus budget bills a growing problem. They say it's not fair to them to have to analyze these bills that have financial matters, but also things that are not financial at all. And they're asking you to change your ways going ahead. Are you going to do that?
Well, listen, I have a lot of respect and appreciation for colleagues of the Senate. The House has been able to do it as well. You know, we are, I think, you know, our colleagues and Canadians, let's start with Canadians, understand that the speed, scope, and scale of change in the world is quite unprecedented. So we need to do things at scope and speed that we may not have seen before. And therefore, when you have a legislative tool in order to address a number of issues, I think Canadians will be understanding to say this is a very exceptional time in our nation history. And we need to do a lot of things at the same time. Minister Robertson and my colleagues from caucus could tell you there's a lot of things. You know, the world became was very uncertain. Now it's volatile and complex. And I think folks at home are looking at that and say they expect from their government to be agile. And therefore, yes, sometimes you need to use the vehicle you have in the House to make sure you pass legislation to address issues at the speed that requires the changing circumstances in the interest of Canadians.
And yesterday, the Ontario government expanded its GST credit for new home builds. Are you considering anything similar at the federal level?
Well, you know, Minister Robertson may want to add, I think it's a very good thing today. That's why we tabled legislation to say we're going to be there. We're going to do our part. $1.7 billion that's going to go to provinces and territory to boost the housing supply. But also I want to emphasize, because, you know, it's all about people at the end of the day. So people on one side is people who want to buy a new home, but people is also the construction workers. You know, we've seen numbers, and I'm very appreciative of the trade, all those in the Red Seal, to say we want these people to be employed. You know, if we have a dip, we need to make sure that at all levels of government, we do everything we can, from municipal government, provincial government, federal government, territorial government, to make sure these people would be employed, because we have big ambition for this country, and we will need construction workers across the nation. So I think this is seen not only a boost to the industry, but a boost to the construction workers across the nation.
Will this money get out?
Can I ask you about Markham? You know, they have walked back those changes that they agreed to make under the Housing Accelerator Fund. Some critics have said that they're emboldened by the fact that you kind of watered down the penalty that Toronto received as a result of that walking back zoning changes. What's your message to Markham and other municipalities who seem to be repealing these zoning changes that they agreed to make under the Housing Accelerator Fund?
Yeah, thanks for the question. The Housing Accelerator Fund is doing its job. We're seeing a significant delivery of more housing opportunities right across the country, over 240 cities and towns that have commitments and agreements with the federal government. The integrity of those agreements is very important here. So in my decisions to date, we look at both the commitments that are made, how the local governments meet those commitments or not, as well as the delivery of housing. That's critical here. The whole purpose of this is to get more housing built and speed up the approvals and permitting. So we've made decisions to date. I'm considering next steps with Markham now, keeping in mind the integrity of the agreements and also their delivery. And we'll have more news on that soon. It's a regular process now, reviewing the results in different local governments and making sure we're keeping everyone on track.
Will this money get out the door for this construction season? You're talking about projects being stalled?
Letters have gone today. Good news. Can report on that. I've even, you know me by now. You know, I've even texted copies of them to, colleagues, because you want that, and that's the beauty. I mean, again, there's a lot of tools in the toolbox in Minister Robertson, but one thing we know is that construction season, you can evade. You know, it's starting soon, and that's why we kept the flexibility. Thanks to the work of Minister Robertson, I must say, all my colleagues in caucus, they said, Minister and Prime Minister, if you do something, obviously we want that money to go to increase the housing stock, but it needs to be flexible enough so that it can be deployed quickly. So we will disperse the money very quickly, and that's why with the flexibility, like you said, different provinces will decide the best vehicle that you can boost construction, boost the construction industry in their own jurisdiction. But I would say that's really the beauty of what we have proposed today, which is really trusting our provincial and territorial partners and municipal partners to work together. There's a lot of things going on, but that is really a direct boost to the industry and the workers. All right.
Okay.
Merci tout le monde. Let's see you at QP. Merci tout le monde. Merci.